From Stone to Stars, the Unbroken Odyssey of Technology. From the moment our earliest ancestors emerged on the African savannas, a subtle yet profound transformation began, a transformation propelled not solely by instinct but by the deliberate shaping of nature through ingenuity. At a time when survival depended on the ability to adapt to unforgiving climates and unpredictable predators, a handful of early hominins discovered that nature's raw materials could be transformed into implements that transcended mere chance. They selected pieces of stone, studying their natural fractures, and with repeated strikes against other stones, skillfully chipped away irregularities to reveal sharp edges, capable of slicing through meat or scraping hides. In these humble beginnings, each carefully knapped rock tool was not only an instrument of survival but also an early inscription of human will, a declaration that the environment need not be passively endured but could be organized, controlled, and harnessed. As these rudimentary tools evolved, so too did the mental faculties of those who wielded them. The process of experimentation and observation instilled in our ancestors an intuitive grasp of cause and effect. Every successful improvement in tool design elevated their ability to secure food, defend against predators, and modify their immediate surroundings. The transformation was incremental yet relentless, forming the foundation of a technological instinct that compelled early humans to reimagine their interactions with nature. In the interplay of hammer and stone emerged the earliest evidence of planning and problem-solving, qualities that would eventually differentiate our species from all others. The first sparks of innovation, born out of necessity and refined through trial and error, initiated an unbroken chain of inventive acts that would later blossom into the vast panorama of technological progress. In the dim light of prehistoric nights, another monumental discovery reshaped the very fabric of existence: the mastery of fire. Whether discovered by the serendipity of lightning strikes or coaxed from smoldering embers, fire became a transformative agent, offering warmth in the bitter cold, protection from nocturnal predators, and a means to transform raw food into sustenance that was safer and more digestible. The controlled use of fire signified much more than a physical change. It heralded a cognitive revolution. The ability to harness and maintain a flame required acute observation and the understanding of natural cycles. In tending to a fire, early humans learned patience and persistence, and as the glow of the flames illuminated shadowy caves, it symbolically awakened the potential to illuminate the mysteries of the world around them. Fire led to communal gatherings where shared stories, rituals, and techniques passed from one generation to the next. In those flickering shadows, the seeds of collective memory and cultural identity were sown. Within these early communities, the evolution of toolmaking and the controlled use of fire gradually catalyzed a shift in lifestyle. No longer confined to the ceaseless wanderings dictated by the search for food, groups of early humans began to settle in areas where the land yielded predictable resources. The transition from a purely nomadic existence to a more sedentary way of life was not abrupt but rather a gradual accumulation of innovations that made sustained habitation possible. As the advantages of a settled life manifested, early agricultural practices took root. The domestication of wild plants, once the domain of opportunistic foraging, evolved into intentional cultivation, a practice that demanded the careful observation of seasonal cycles, soil fertility, and the behaviors of flora. With each deliberate planting and every season's harvest, early farmers gleaned insights into the rhythms of nature and the latent potential to shape it. The surplus of edible produce enabled larger groups to coalesce, leading to complex social structures where knowledge was shared, refined, and recorded, albeit informally at first. In these newfound settlements, the benefits of technology extended well beyond immediate sustenance. As food supplies stabilized, time that would have been spent solely on survival could now be devoted to the arts of communication and record-keeping. The earliest signs of symbolic expression began to emerge. Incised markings on stones and primitive paintings on cave walls are among the first attempts by human beings to document their experiences and to codify abstract ideas. These symbols, though rudimentary by later standards, represented a leap from the concrete to the conceptual. They were a means of communicating experiences, emotions, and observations across generations. In this delicate interplay between art and language, the human mind learned to externalize thought, preserving collective knowledge and passing it along to descendants. The capacity for symbolic thought fundamentally altered the trajectory of human innovation, embedding a desire not only to survive but to understand, commemorate, and aspire. This gradual accumulation of technical and cultural knowledge did more than just sustain life. It redefined it. The inventive breakthroughs in toolmaking, fire management, and early plant cultivation provided a stable backdrop for increasingly sophisticated interactions with the environment. Each new technique and artifact served as a stepping stone toward more ambitious projects, setting the stage for the complex civilizations that would eventually rise. The innovations of these primitive times were not isolated events but parts of an ongoing, cumulative process. The lessons of one generation, inscribed in the form of shared practices and physical remnants, would inform the next, creating an intergenerational dialogue that spanned millennia. In this context, technology emerged as a central theme in the human story, a dynamic interplay between the mind's creative impulses and the challenges imposed by the natural world. As early humans passed through this transformative epoch, the seeds of technological progress began to germinate in unexpected ways. In the quiet moments between the hunt and the harvest, individuals experimented with variations of their tools, reshaping a chipped stone into a more effective cutting implement or modifying a primitive club for greater impact. Each small improvement carried forward the notion that the environment was malleable, that with skill and persistence, even the most unyielding natural elements might be repurposed to serve human needs. This ethos of continual refinement fostered an intimate understanding of material properties, instilling in people a respect for the varying strengths and weaknesses of stone, wood, bone, and later, clay. Such insights not only led to more specialized tools but also laid the groundwork for the later discovery of metallurgy and the use of more durable substances in construction and warfare. The early chapters of technology, though marked by simplicity, set forth the principles that would undergird every epoch of innovation that followed. The recognition that knowledge, a collective resource refined through painstaking observation and experimentation, could be transmitted from one generation to the next was the first fundamental insight of what we now call technology. In the subtle evolution from instinctual behavior to deliberate innovation, our ancestors discovered that the human mind was not limited by the constraints of nature but could extend and even transform them. In this sense, technology emerged as an expression of the human spirit itself, a manifestation of the innate drive to explore, to dissect, and to rebuild the world in ever more efficient and beautiful forms. These early achievements, though modest by contemporary standards, were revolutionary in their context. They initiated a slow but inexorable journey toward progress, in which every polished stone and every controlled flame contributed to an expansive legacy of innovation. As human groups settled, expanded, and interconnected, the accumulation of knowledge became a shared heritage, a treasure trove of practical wisdom and creative possibility. The spark of innovation that originated in the primal haze of prehistory continued to glow, illuminating the path toward increasingly elaborate forms of technology. While the tools of our distant forebears might appear rudimentary today, they embody the timeless truth that technology is the natural outgrowth of human curiosity and the will to improve one's circumstances. In the interplay between man and nature, the early era of technology represents the first great dialogue, a conversation in which the language was one of creation, trial, and transformation. Each advance was hard-won, a product of the persistent effort of individuals who recognized that by altering the natural order, they might also elevate their own place within it. Over countless generations, this dialogue deepened as new techniques emerged and as raw materials were mastered and repurposed. The cumulative effect was transformative, enabling our ancestors not only to survive but to forge a legacy of innovation that would support the rise of civilizations and the unfolding of human history. Thus, the story of technology begins with a simple act of human ingenuity, a spark ignited by the desire to make life more manageable and, ultimately, more meaningful. In the echoes of ancient campfires and the remnants of long-forgotten tools lie the origins of a process that has come to define the human experience. Every deliberate strike on a stone, every careful arrangement of embers, and every measured planting of a seed was an affirmation of the belief that nature, though powerful and often indifferent, could be shaped by the steady hand of human innovation. And so, as the first chapters of this grand narrative were written in the language of necessity and hope, a precedent was set for all future generations. That technology, in its many evolving forms, is the very essence of human progress. As early humans began to settle in regions where the land could be cultivated and natural resources reliably harnessed, their relationship with the environment underwent a profound transformation. The mastery of fire and the disciplined use of stone tools had set in motion an evolutionary process that would soon favor the exploration of other materials. The realization that nature's bounty included not only stones and wood, but also ores hidden in the earth led to the earliest experiments in metallurgy. In primitive furnaces fueled by wood and charcoal, early metallurgists discovered that heating copper ores produced a malleable substance that could be hammered into shape. This genesis of metalworking signified a quantum leap in technology, for copper tools offered durability and the potential for sharpness that far exceeded their stone antecedents. As knowledge of extraction and alloying techniques spread among emerging communities, the transformation from the Stone Age to the Copper Age became inevitable, a period marked by the deliberate shaping of a new material that bridged the gap between nature and artifice. The evolution of metallurgy soon ushered in an era defined by the creation of bronze, an alloy formed by combining copper with tin. This synthesis yielded a material of greater hardness and resilience, capable of withstanding the rigors of warfare and the demands of intensive agricultural labor. Bronze implements revolutionized societies by permitting the crafting of more effective tools, weapons, and ceremonial objects, thus reinforcing the social structures that organized early settlements. The creation and manipulation of bronze not only enhanced survival prospects but also became a cornerstone for trade and communication between neighboring groups. As bronze tools and weapons circulated across growing networks of exchange, they carried with them fragments of knowledge, artistic expression, and innovation. This era witnessed the birth of a shared technological language, where breakthroughs in one locale inspired advancements in another. The flow of ideas was as crucial as the exchange of goods, and in this dynamic interplay between craftsmanship and mutual learning, the technological foundation of civilization was laid. During this period of transition, the emergence of permanent settlements led to changes in social organization that were inextricably linked to technical progress. With the stability afforded by agriculture and animal domestication, communities could dedicate resources to skills beyond mere survival. The surplus food produced by careful cultivation allowed artisans to specialize. Craftspersons who had mastered the art of shaping metal, pottery, and textiles became indispensable in forging the complex social, religious, and political structures that characterize early civilizations. Communication among these disparate groups evolved as well. The earliest symbolic representations and proto-writing systems emerged from the necessity to record and transmit information, a crucial development in societies where the division of labor and the accumulation of collective memory were essential to sustaining intricate systems of trade, governance, and culture. Simultaneously, the advancements in metallurgy catalyzed a revolution in the construction of infrastructure. Stone, clay, and emerging metal tools allowed for more ambitious architectural endeavors, from the fortified settlements and granaries of early agrarian societies to the monumental structures that would eventually define the ancient world. In the course of planning, constructing, and maintaining these complexes, early engineers discovered principles of mathematics and geometry, disciplines that would in time shape entire branches of technology and scholarship. These communities, led by the dual imperatives of survival and expression, began to experiment with structures that harnessed not only the physical resources at hand but also abstract principles that governed balance, stability, and symmetry. The legacy of these innovations is found in the remains of ancient cities, whose precision in layout, construction, and functionality continues to testify to the ingenuity of early technological thought. At the confluence of metallurgy, agriculture, and construction, early trade networks emerged. The distribution of scarce resources like tin, copper, and later precious metals necessitated the creation of routes that spanned vast distances. Along these ancient roads, traders exchanged not just material goods but also the intangible wealth of ideas. Innovations developed in one region found fertile ground in another, and the exchanges nurtured an environment in which technology could evolve without being tethered to a single culture or geography. The steady flow of cultural and technical knowledge accelerated the pace of progress dramatically. Every new technique, whether in metal casting, artisanal pottery, or early forms of written communication, became part of a collective heritage that laid the groundwork for even more dramatic technological revolutions in the centuries that followed. As the networks of trade and the bonds of shared knowledge expanded, the evolution of writing emerged as a pivotal development in the saga of technology. Early inscriptions on tablets of clay and stone provided a means to record transactions, laws, and narratives with unprecedented precision. This transformation of oral tradition into a durable, transferable medium not only preserved the insights of prior generations but also enabled systematic inquiry and the codification of complex ideas. In these early texts, technology was not only observed and described but also analyzed, critiqued, and improved upon. The ability to record information catalyzed the development of bureaucracies and legal systems, which in turn standardized practices across vast regions. This standardization, while initially rooted in pragmatic concerns, eventually stimulated a flourishing of philosophy, science, and art, a renaissance of inquiry in which technology played a central role as both subject and instrument. Civilizations that arose along the fertile banks of great rivers, from the Tigris and Euphrates to the Nile and the Indus, bred innovations that integrated the practical advances of metallurgy, agriculture, and architecture with the emerging imperatives of administration, religion, and art. These ancient societies, renowned for their monumental achievements such as ziggurats, pyramids, and labyrinthine irrigation systems, were also laboratories of technological experimentation. The careful measurement of time, the systematic recording of harvests, and the precise calculation of construction dimensions all contributed to a culture that placed high value on precision and progress. In these settings, technology was imbued with meaning beyond its immediate utilitarian function. It was a manifestation of cosmic order and divine favor, with a mastery of natural forces being both a pragmatic and a metaphysical pursuit. The rituals and ceremonies that intertwined with technological practices served to reinforce common values and goals, thereby ensuring that the innovations of the day were preserved and transmitted with reverence. As centuries passed, the technological prowess of early civilizations began to converge and diverge in distinctive ways. In one region, the secret of metallurgy passed from one dynasty to the next, fostering sustained periods of prosperity and military might, while in another, the meticulous art of writing and record-keeping spurred intellectual and administrative reforms that would later influence entire empires. The synthesis of practical knowledge and creative expression during these formative eras led to the gradual emergence of what can be recognized as classical technology, an integrated system where material manipulation, abstract reasoning, and social governance were inextricably linked. Every invention, every improvement upon a prior design, was not only a testament to the technical skill of its creator, but also a symbol of humanity's ceaseless striving to conquer the limitations imposed by nature. In the delicate interplay between necessity and ingenuity, the seeds of modern technology were sown, destined to evolve in complexity and scope over millennia. The evolution of technology during this epoch was not a linear progression, but rather a cumulative process in which each generation built upon the achievements of its predecessors. The innovations in metallurgy and construction fostered by settled agriculture provided a stable platform upon which further refinements in craftsmanship and institutional organization could be achieved. The rise of cities and states created specialized roles for artisans, scribes, and administrators, effectively decentralizing innovation and encouraging local experimentation. In turn, the successful techniques and systems developed by one culture were transmitted through mechanisms of trade, diplomacy, and even conquest, ensuring that a shared body of technical knowledge became a common heritage. It is this very exchange, across cultures and over time, that has allowed humanity to transcend the limits of its environment and forge tools capable of reshaping the world itself. The transformative effects of these early innovations are reflected not only in the physical artifacts left behind, but also in the intangible legacy of human thought. The principles of cause and effect, symmetry and balance, efficiency and durability, all discovered in the crucible of early technological experimentation, have endured throughout the ages. They have been refined and reinterpreted by successive generations as societies sought to understand and improve upon the natural world. In every successive era, from the classical antiquity of Greece and Rome to the intellectual ferment of the medieval and Renaissance periods, the core tenets of early technological ingenuity continued to inform and inspire. The dialectical relationship between practical needs and intellectual inquiry, so vividly embodied in the earliest experiments with metal and fire, laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution that transformed later epochs. These centuries of incremental progress eventually converged to create a world where technology assumed an ever more central role not only in everyday life but also in the evolution of human consciousness itself. The discoveries of the ancient world, forged through the interplay of necessity and innovation, set into motion a chain of events that would lead, centuries later, to the dramatic transformations of the modern era. As communities grew and empires expanded, the techniques of metallurgy, construction, writing, and trade were continually refined and reimagined. Each new discovery, meticulously recorded on clay tablets and later on papyrus and parchment, represented not merely a technical achievement but the embodiment of a collective desire to master, understand, and ultimately transcend the natural limitations that had once defined human existence. In this remarkable evolution, the seeds of every subsequent technological triumph, whether the invention of the printing press, the harnessing of steam power, or the emergence of digital computing, can be traced back to these early, decisive moments of creative synthesis and practical ingenuity. Thus, the second phase of our technological odyssey unfolds as a testament to the power of human collaboration, observation, and imagination. From the simple act of heating or in a makeshift furnace to the complex interplay of ideas that gave birth to sprawling empires and sophisticated bureaucracies, technology advanced not in isolated leaps but through a continuum of discovery. Each innovation provided the means for further explorations into the mysteries of nature and humanity itself, setting the stage for future revolutions that would redefine every aspect of existence. The deep interconnections forged by the exchange of knowledge and technique across vast distances and diverse cultures served to unite disparate communities under a common banner of creative inquiry, a legacy that carries forward to this day. In every hammered bronze tool, every inscribed tablet, and every carefully constructed edifice, there remains an echo of those long-ago moments when humanity first dared to shape the world with its own hands. When the time comes to reflect upon these achievements, one sees that the technological journey from the earliest forms of toolmaking to the sophisticated practices of later civilizations was not merely a series of isolated events, but a continuous narrative of striving, learning, and overcoming the inherent challenges of existence. The ingenuity of those early innovators set in motion a process of cumulative improvement that would eventually lead to the bright, intricate tapestry of modern science and technology. In this unfolding drama, every technological breakthrough represents a moment of triumph, a victory of human intellect over the constraints of nature. As the legacy of these innovations endures, it continues to inspire new generations to explore, discover, and ultimately redefine the boundaries of what is possible. From the dawn of classical civilization, as humanity's early settlements matured into urban centers of culture and power, the spirit of inquiry, experimentation, and refinement took hold with renewed intensity. Early innovators built upon the basic principles forged in prehistoric times, hammer, stone, and fire, to develop techniques that transcended immediate survival. In ancient cultures, the great minds of Greece, Rome, and other early Mediterranean societies reimagined the tools of daily existence while simultaneously articulating abstract theories of nature, mathematics, and aesthetics. In these societies, architecture, engineering, and inquiry merged in a harmonious pursuit of order and beauty. Ingenious artisans sculpted durable materials into columns and arches, while engineers designed complex systems of aqueducts that channeled water across vast distances. The rational investigation of geometry and mechanics yielded the precise curves of domes and the innovations of torsion and stress management, which enabled the construction of amphitheaters, bridges, and public works that remain studied for their ingenuity. These achievements were not isolated successes but were integrally connected to the society's desire to understand nature's laws. For in every mathematical theorem or meticulously measured stone block lay the evidence of an evolving relationship with the physical world. People no longer responded only to immediate needs but began to question and codify the principles underlying natural phenomena, thus sowing the seeds for many scientific disciplines that would later revolutionize not only construction but also commerce, navigation, and warfare. The ingenuity of early civilizations was further demonstrated in the realm of applied mechanics, as seen in the emergence of complex machinery such as water wheels, geared mechanisms, and mechanical clocks. Inventors of antiquity sought to capture and control the forces of nature. They observed the persistent flow of water in rivers and developed sophisticated water-lifting devices that allowed them to distribute water for irrigation, sanitation, and even spectacle. These basic machines not only improved agricultural yields but also gave rise to specialized craft traditions where metalworking and woodworking converged to produce finely engineered devices. In parallel, the invention of simple gear trains enabled efficient mechanisms that could convert rotational motion into linear work. The principle of the lever, refined by early philosophers and engineers, found practical application in battlefields and construction sites alike, transforming rudimentary siege engines into potent instruments of war and facilitating the lifting of heavy materials for monumental structures. The enthusiasm for precision and repeatability found expression in the creation of water-driven clocks, a concept that embodied the ancient pursuit of measuring time with increasing accuracy. As timekeeping became a critical element in organizing the rhythms of daily life and coordinating complex activities such as trade and governance, the early mechanical clocks symbolized the fusion of scientific observation with mechanical art, marking a turning point in the systematic application of theory to practical challenges. Simultaneously, as the Mediterranean basin thrived, trade networks spanning from the Near East to the fringes of Europe and North Africa expanded the horizons of technology by facilitating the exchange of ideas. The movement of merchants, scholars, and artisans carried technological innovations not merely as commodities but as cultural assets that could be adapted to local circumstances. The high degree of specialization reached during these eras was built upon the capacity to store and transmit accumulated knowledge, an ability that was greatly enhanced by the innovation of writing. The earliest forms of writing, developed initially for record-keeping and administrative control, evolved into systems that encompassed literature, law, philosophy, and scientific treatises. Clay tablets, papyri, and later parchment codices became the vessels of accumulated human wisdom, preserving detailed descriptions of technologies ranging from metallurgy to astronomical observations. This writable culture allowed successive generations to build on the accomplishments of their predecessors, refining and expanding the body of knowledge. In a tangible way, the written word bridged the practical and the theoretical, ensuring that breakthrough observations, even those made in ancient times, could eventually be reinterpreted, improved, and disseminated across cultures and centuries. In the eastern part of the world, parallel currents of technological progress were unfolding with equal vigor. Ancient China, with its long history of centralized dynasties and scholarly traditions, became a crucible for innovations that would profoundly influence the future course of technology. The early Chinese discovered the art of papermaking, a technique that revolutionized communication by making written records more accessible and affordable. At the same time, the invention of the magnetic compass, the development of printing methods, and crucial discoveries in metallurgy and engineering underscored China's advanced state of technology. The advent of gunpowder, initially developed for medicinal and ceremonial purposes, evolved into a vital component of military strategy, altering the nature of warfare by introducing explosive devices and firearms that would eventually reshape global power balances. These Chinese innovations, while emerging independently, later found their way to other parts of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, where they were assimilated into local practices and further advanced. The collaborative dissemination of technological ideas through trade routes such as the Silk Road fostered a shared legacy that transcended the boundaries of language and culture, uniting disparate regions under the common banner of innovation. As empires rose and fell in the ensuing centuries, the medieval period saw the convergence of diverse traditions in a mosaic of cultural renaissance and technological progress. The fall of the Western Roman Empire did not halt progress. Rather, it set the stage for the preservation and transformation of classical knowledge by scholars in the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic world, and emerging European kingdoms. The Islamic Golden Age, for instance, became an era of unprecedented synthesis, where mathematicians, physicians, astronomers, and engineers built upon ancient Greek, Persian, and Indian sources. In centers of learning such as Baghdad, Cordoba, and Samarkand, polymaths translated and expanded upon lost texts, introduced systematic experimentation, and developed innovative instruments. The astrolabe, a sophisticated device used to solve problems in astronomy and navigation, epitomized the melding of observation with mathematical rigor. Innovations in optics, catalyzed by the careful study of light and vision, led to deeper understandings of lenses and magnification, which, in turn, set the groundwork for later advancements in telescopic and microscopic technologies. In a similar vein, breakthroughs in medicine, ranging from surgical techniques to pharmacology, were recorded in comprehensive texts that served as authoritative references for centuries. The deft integration of empirical observation with theoretical insight that characterized this era laid the intellectual foundation for the scientific revolution that loomed on the horizon. Throughout this period, the principles instilled by early innovators in the classical world continued to evolve as medieval society adapted inherited technologies to their own needs. Innovations in agriculture persisted in refined forms as techniques of irrigation, crop rotation, and the use of the heavy plow helped transform European farmlands, leading to surpluses that supported burgeoning populations in emerging towns and cities. These agricultural advances spurred the growth of local markets and stimulated the exchange of new ideas, fostering an environment in which artisans, merchants, and technological enthusiasts could thrive. Mechanical devices such as windmills and watermills further underscored the era's spirit of harnessing natural forces for human benefit, automating processes that had formerly been labor-intensive and unpredictable. Such innovations not only improved daily life but also reconfigured economic and social structures, allowing communities to focus on cultural pursuits, craftsmanship, and scholarly endeavors. Simultaneously, the medieval world bore witness to innovations in warfare and defense that paralleled advances in civil technology. The construction of fortified castles, the design of intricate siege engines, and the development of armor testified to a deep understanding of physics and material science, albeit in a context defined by conflict. Military engineers applied principles of geometry, leverage, and momentum to create machines that could breach fortified walls or withstand the brutal impacts of cannon fire. Although these developments were driven by pressing needs for security and territorial control, the underlying technologies, metallurgy, mechanics, and architectural design, had far-reaching applications beyond the battlefield. They informed techniques in construction, permitted the efficient organization of labor, and indirectly contributed to the creation of a dynamic urban culture that prized both artistry and practicality. The transmission of knowledge across cultures in the medieval era was not merely a passive process of preservation, but an active dialogue that spurred further innovation. As contact between the Islamic world, Byzantine centers, and Western Europe increased, so too did the exchange of technical treatises, mathematical formulas, and engineering blueprints. The works of classical Greek philosophers were rediscovered and integrated with medieval insights, rekindling an interest in empirical methods and reasoned argument. In this intercultural cauldron, technology emerged as both art and science, a discipline that was continually refined by the interplay of practical necessity and intellectual curiosity. Even as the medieval period fostered its own unique innovations, it remained intrinsically linked to the ancient past by virtue of its reliance on long-established principles of observation, experimentation, and systematic inquiry. In the subtle shifts of daily life, from the rhythmic operation of mills in quiet countrysides to the grand designs of fortified cities, the medieval innovations set the stage for transformation on a scale that would emerge with startling clarity in subsequent centuries. The melding of practical engineering with advanced theoretical constructs during these times refined the lens through which humanity viewed the natural world, paving the way for later revolutionary scientific methods. While the medieval era was itself characterized by a deep sense of continuity with ancient traditions, it also laid important intellectual and technological groundwork for what was yet to come. A gradual but inexorable current of innovation had been set in motion, a current that would swell in the Renaissance, burst forth in the scientific revolution, and continue to push the boundaries of human capability in ways both predictable and astonishing. Thus, the classical and medieval epochs collectively represent a dynamic bridge between the unsophisticated beginnings of toolmaking and the modern mechanizations that define contemporary civilization. Each inventive step, from the elegant arches of Roman aqueducts to the ingenious gear systems of medieval clocks, from the subtle preservation of knowledge on papyrus and parchment to the bold experiments in optics and astronomy in far-off academies, formed an essential link in the chain that connects humanity's primitive impulses to its advanced dreams. This continuum, forged out of the collective endeavors of countless individuals across centuries and continents, set forth a trajectory that has since ascended into realms of digital computation, genetic engineering, and space exploration. In every thoughtfully carved stone and every meticulously calibrated instrument, there is an echo of those ancient aspirations, a relentless drive to comprehend, to manipulate, and ultimately, to transcend the limitations imposed by the natural world. In this seamless progression of human innovation, nothing is isolated or accidental. Every breakthrough was born of an intrinsic desire to solve a problem inherent in daily life, to reconcile the immediate with the abstract, and to forge connections between disparate pieces of knowledge. The legacy of these eras is not found solely in the ruins of temples or in the faded manuscripts of long-forgotten scholars, but in the very spirit of inquiry that has propelled technology forward through the ages. It is an enduring saga in which the cumulative wisdom of the ages has coalesced into the modern array of devices, systems, and methodologies that now shape our lives in profound and unexpected ways. This chapter of our narrative, unfolding seamlessly from the legacy of ancient genius to the transformative insights of medieval scholarship, stands as a tribute to the unmatched capacity of the human mind to understand and innovate. Every tool devised, every architectural marvel designed, and every scientific principle enunciated in these eras contributed to a growing corpus of knowledge, a knowledge base that continues to inspire and empower. Even as the world would eventually enter eras where steam, electricity, and digital signals redefined the scope of what was possible, the imprint of these early technological endeavors remains indelibly etched into the collective consciousness of humankind. In the interplay between inherited tradition and bold experimentation, technology emerged as a living, ever-evolving force that has guided our journey from primitive survival to complex, interconnected existence. As the long Middle Ages gave way to the Renaissance, human thought experienced a reawakening. In this unprecedented surge of creativity and rational inquiry, the rediscovery of classical knowledge merged with innovative enterprise. The human spirit, having long been subdued by dogma and tradition, now engaged with nature through a fresh perspective centered on empirical observation and logical reasoning. In the workshops of early innovators, calligraphers, and scribes, inspired by ancient manuscripts, began perfecting a revolutionary innovation, the printing press. This machine, with its ingenious arrangement of movable type and press mechanism, transformed the manner in which information was recorded, multiplied, and disseminated. Books, once painstakingly copied by hand, could now be produced in volumes, sparking an explosion in learning that transcended social classes and geographic boundaries. The printing press played an essential role in distributing newly discovered ideas, enabling scholars, merchants, and artisans to share the techniques that would empower each successive age with technical precision and creativity. The new age was characterized by a profound curiosity about the natural world, a curiosity that led to the systematic study of astronomy, anatomy, and the principles underlying matter itself. Empirical observations made with refined instruments replaced mere reliance on ancient authorities, and inventors set about designing devices that could capture and measure natural phenomena. Elaborate mechanical clocks were developed to measure time with increasing accuracy, their intricate gear trains and escapement mechanisms offering not only the practical benefit of punctuality but also serving as metaphors for the ordered workings of the cosmos. Instruments such as the astrolabe and quadrant were perfected, allowing navigators and astronomers alike to chart the positions of stars and planets. With these tools in hand, explorers embarked on daring voyages across uncharted seas, guided by celestial maps and the promise of discovery. Their journeys not only unveiled the contours of distant lands but also opened up new realms of commerce and cultural exchange, creating networks of knowledge that would feed back into the laboratories and workshops of Europe. In the minds of Renaissance thinkers, nature was no longer shrouded in mystery but was something that could be observed, measured, and understood. The fusion of art and science was evident in the detailed anatomical drawings produced by pioneering artists who, through careful dissection and observation, revealed the inner workings of the human body with striking accuracy. This merging of disciplines fostered an environment in which schematic representation and scientific data coexisted harmoniously, reinforcing the conviction that the principles behind both natural and constructed systems were comprehensible. As engineers began to apply geometric principles to architectural design, great structures emerged that balanced both aesthetic beauty and structural integrity. The careful proportioning of domes, arches, and vaults not only reflected mathematical precision but also symbolized the human capacity to shape the built environment in tandem with nature's laws. The spirit of inquiry that characterized the Renaissance soon evolved into the systematic methodologies of the scientific revolution. Researchers no longer accepted ancient texts at face value. Instead, they formulated hypotheses and subjected them to rigorous experimental testing. This transformation of science was not isolated from technological progress but was its driving force. The development of the telescope and the microscope, for instance, opened up vistas previously unimaginable. One revealed the vastness of the cosmos with its myriad celestial bodies, while the other unveiled the intricate architecture of life at the cellular level. Observations made through these instruments challenged established geocentric models and laid the foundation for modern physics and biology. Figures such as Galileo Galilei, Johannes Kepler, and Isaac Newton became synonymous with an era of intellectual rebellion against the accepted order. Their work, rooted in careful measurement and mathematical reasoning, redefined the understanding of motion, gravity, and the very workings of the universe. Every scientific breakthrough not only provided answers but also spurred further questions, creating a recursively expanding domain of knowledge that continuously fed into technological advancements. As science and technology advanced in tandem, the practical application of these discoveries began to reshape society. Innovations in metallurgy, refined by centuries of earlier work, led to the creation of finer tools and more durable materials. The period witnessed a shift from predominantly artisanal production methods to more systematic approaches in manufacturing. Engineers started incorporating principles of thermodynamics and mechanics to design machines that leveraged steam and water power, setting the stage for an era of mechanized industry. The advent of the steam engine became the symbol of this dynamic transition. Initially developed to pump water from mines, these engines evolved into complex systems capable of powering factories, locomotives, and ships. The efficient conversion of heat energy into mechanical work revolutionized transport and manufacturing, catalyzing economic and social transformations throughout Europe and beyond. The rapid dissemination of ideas, enabled by the printing press, ensured that theoretical advances in science did not remain confined to the cloisters of academia but spilled over into practical domains. Experimentation with chemical processes gave rise to innovations in the production of glass, ceramics, and pigments, which in turn influenced artistic expression and architectural design. Techniques for distillation and extraction were refined, eventually laying the groundwork for the development of modern chemistry and pharmacology. Laboratories emerged as centers of systematic investigation where scientific instruments were honed and experimental methods refined. The cross-pollination of ideas among chemists, physicists, and engineers sparked a momentum that would culminate in the Industrial Revolution, a period marked by an unparalleled acceleration in the pace and scale of technological change. By the late 17th and early 18th centuries, The cumulative impact of centuries of exploration, observation, and experimentation coalesced into a profound transformation of society. Mechanized production began to supplant traditional manual labor, reshaping urban landscapes and the nature of economic organization. The intricate interplay between innovation and industry gave rise to a new era in which machines performed tasks once executed by human hands. The proliferation of factories, driven by the imperative to produce goods at unprecedented speed and volume, redefined not only the economies of nations but also the social structures within them. Rural populations migrated to burgeoning industrial centers, where the rhythm of daily life was dictated by the cycles of mechanized production. Technology was no longer a tool solely for survival or even enlightenment. It had become the engine of societal transformation, forging a link between scientific discovery and economic growth. In parallel with these material transformations, the intellectual climate of the time underwent a corresponding evolution. Enlightenment thinkers, guided by the conviction that reason and science could liberate humanity from the shackles of ignorance and superstition, championed reforms in government, education, and social organization. The same analytical rigor that underpinned scientific inquiry was applied to questions of politics and economics, leading to radical reforms in governance and the dissemination of knowledge. Libraries and academies flourished, and public debate became a vehicle for implementing ideas that had once been confined to scholarly treatises. In this climate of progress and rational discourse, technology assumed an increasingly central role not just as an instrument of production but as a symbol of human potential, a tangible manifestation of the power of discovery and the perpetual quest for improvement. The innovations of the Renaissance and early modern periods therefore represent a continuous, cumulative process. Every invention, from the subtle refinement of a printing press to the complex mechanics of the steam engine, was the product of centuries of accumulated knowledge, gradually honed through observation, experimentation, and collaboration. The renaissance of human thought forged pathways that connected the intuition of early artisans with the precise formulations of modern scientists. In every carefully constructed machine and every elegantly inscribed page of a newly printed book there resided the echoes of ancient ingenuity and the promise of future breakthroughs. The convergence of art, science, and engineering during these transformative centuries redefined the parameters of possibility, ensuring that each successive generation stood on the shoulders of giants while reaching ever higher for the next discovery. The interconnected nature of these developments was exemplified by the rapid spread of technological innovations across national and cultural boundaries. As scientific treatises traveled from one learned center to another, they carried with them not only technical instructions but also the spirit of inquiry that transcended geographic divides. The marriage of theory and practice, once a privilege of a few isolated regions, became a pan-European phenomenon. The empirical methods developed by inquisitive scholars resonated with master craftsmen and engineers, unifying seemingly disparate sectors under a common purpose. This pervasive enthusiasm for advancement, both intellectual and material, set into motion a virtuous circle in which each spark of discovery ignited new applications, each practical improvement fueling further theoretical questions. In the fertile ground of early modern Europe, the convergence of all these forces, renewed interest in classical learning, revolutionary scientific methods, and the accelerated pace of industrial development, crafted a turning point in human history. The boundaries between disciplines gradually dissolved, giving rise to a synergy that would ultimately pave the way for our modern age of information and automated networks. The progression from hand tools to steam-driven machinery embodies not merely a sequence of technological upgrades, but a profound evolution in the manner in which humanity interacts with nature and, in turn, transforms it. As empirical methods replaced dogma, and mechanization supplanted manual labor, science and technology emerged as the twin pillars upon which the edifice of modern society would be built. Through this phase, technology evolved from discrete, localized inventions into a global force capable of reshaping economies, cultures, and even the natural landscape. The transition to industrialization was driven not only by the discovery of new energy sources and production techniques, but also by a transformative shift in social and economic organization. The rise of factories, enabled by advances in mechanical engineering and powered by steam, precipitated a radical reordering of society that remains evident in modern urban landscapes. Labor, once performed by hand under natural rhythms, was reconfigured into regimented shifts in mechanized environments, altering the very fabric of daily life. Markets expanded, trade networks deepened, and the quest for efficiency reached levels that spurred continuous improvements in manufacturing, transportation, and communication. In every facet of public and private life, the cumulative insights of the Renaissance and scientific revolution resonated, ensuring that progress was not an isolated event but the culmination of centuries of thoughtful innovation. As the industrial era unfolded, many of the principles honed during the Renaissance, precision, standardization, and the relentless pursuit of efficiency, became the norm in mass production. The technological breakthroughs of early modernity did not simply create new tools, they redefined the entire process of production and distribution. The mechanization of textile production, the widespread use of iron and steel, and the advent of machine shops heralded a dramatic increase in not only output but also quality and accessibility of goods. These sweeping changes fostered an environment of extraordinary social mobility, scientific inquiry, and artistic expression that reverberated far beyond the confines of the factory floor. In these transformative centuries, the interplay between human ingenuity and mechanical innovation reached a crescendo. Every new discovery that set the wheels of industry in motion was a testament to a legacy that began in the mists of prehistory and was nurtured over millennia by persistence, curiosity, and an insatiable hunger for progress. The Renaissance and the subsequent centuries of scientific and industrial advancement, as captured in the innovations of printing, clockwork, navigation, and steam power, forged a pathway that would ultimately lead to a modern world pulsating with technological promise. In this continuous process of refinement and reinvention, technology came to assume an ever more central role, not only as an enabler of economic growth but as a defining element of the human experience, a powerful testament to the enduring legacy of our collective assault upon the boundaries of what is possible. As society advanced into an era defined by mechanized production and mass manufacturing, the steady accumulation of innovative insights began to reshape not only economies and social structures but also the very fabric of daily life. The inventions that had propelled humanity from simple metallurgy and manual craft into the organized frenzy of factory floors set in motion a relentless pursuit of efficiency and standardization. With the advent of steam power, the beating heart of the Industrial Revolution, the transformation was not simply mechanical but also cultural. The steam engine, refined over years of observation and experimentation, harnessed the power of heated water to produce motion in a reliable, repeatable manner and in doing so transformed industries as diverse as mining, textiles, and transportation. Factories, once small-scale workshops dependent on human and animal labor, grew into sprawling enterprises powered by the ceaseless rhythm of piston and wheel. It was during this period that urban centers expanded rapidly, as rural populations migrated to nascent industrial hubs in search of opportunity and progress. The mechanization of production altered the social contract, realigning the relationship between labor and capital, and sowing the seeds of modern economic theory even as it redefined notions of time, productivity, and human agency. In the wake of these early mechanizations came the revolutionary discovery and harnessing of electricity, an innovation that would ultimately eclipse the era of steam. Across laboratories and workshop quarters where scientific inquiry had gradually supplanted artisanal guesswork, researchers began to unravel the mysteries of electromagnetism. Experiments yielding the principles of electric currents, magnetism, and later, alternating current, led to the creation of devices that converted invisible forces into tangible, controllable energy. The incandescent glow of electric light replaced the flicker of oil lamps and gaslight, not merely illuminating darkened streets and alleys but symbolically heralding a new age of enlightenment and possibility. Electric generators, piloted by the steady hum of turbines, supplied energy to factories, offices, and homes, creating a network of interdependent systems that bound cities together in a lit tapestry of progress. The arrival of electricity catalyzed a reinvention of communication and transportation alike. Telegraph lines stretched across continents, transmitting coded messages that traversed vast distances in moments, while electric trams and locomotives enabled urban mobility that defied the limitations of horse-drawn conveyances. Within this period of rapid technological expansion, the telegraph emerged as an instrument of both practical utility and profound transformation. Lines of copper wire, strung between poles and traversing wide expanses of rugged terrain, became the channels through which information flowed with unprecedented speed and reliability. The coded clicks and pauses of Morse code conveyed urgent news, commercial data, and personal correspondence, compressing time and space and reshaping the manner in which societies conducted commerce and governance. The telegraph not only democratized information by making distant events immediately accessible, but also laid the groundwork for later innovations in long-distance communication. The leap from electrical signals propagating through wire to the transmission of voice across continents was but the next natural evolution of this technology. From the electrical telegraph, inventors distilled the essence of rapid, reliable connectivity into the telephone. The telephone, refined with each successive improvement in acoustic engineering and electrical circuitry, transformed human interaction into a near-instantaneous dialogue that spanned cities, nations, and eventually the globe. Voices that once carried only over short distances now resonated through invisible networks, forging interpersonal bonds and enabling the decentralized coordination of increasingly complex industrial and political systems. As the century advanced, the engine of progress accelerated with the development and mass production of the internal combustion engine. This innovation, which refined the conversion of chemical energy into mechanical motion, ushered in a radical expansion of personal and public mobility. Automobiles, emerging as once experimental contraptions, soon evolved into efficient, reliable machines that reshaped urban landscapes and redefined modern life. The ability to move freely, quickly, and independently reconfigured social dynamics, enabling the emergence of sprawling suburbs and transforming the economic geography of entire regions. Simultaneously, the aviation pioneers tested the limits of human ambition by conquering the boundless dome of the sky. Aircraft, redesigned through relentless trial and error and powered by more efficient combustion processes and, later, turbine engines, transcended terrestrial boundaries, shrinking global distances and knitting disparate corners of the world into a single interconnected network. The rapid expansion of transportation networks, both on the ground and in the air, catalyzed new forms of exchange, of goods, ideas, and culture that set the stage for the next major leap in technological integration. During these decades of accelerated industrial and scientific exploration, another revolution was unfolding, a quiet one that would eventually alter the very essence of human cognition. In laboratories around the globe, the quest to understand and simulate the processes of thought gave rise to the earliest computational devices. Mechanical calculators, initially designed to perform straightforward arithmetic, gradually evolved into more sophisticated systems capable of handling increasingly complex calculations. The steady integration of circuitry, refined gears, and later, electronic components, amalgamated into machines that could perform a multitude of operations with speed and precision that far surpassed human capability. These early computers, though enormous in scale and limited in function by today's standards, foreshadowed the digital revolution that would soon redefine the parameters of human activity. As parts and subsystems gave way to integrated circuits and eventually microprocessors, computing power began its exponential ascent. The advent of semiconductors transformed bulky apparatuses into compact, efficient devices that found their way into offices, laboratories, and eventually, the palms of individuals. The transition from the mechanical computation of the past to the digital intricacies of binary logic not only revolutionized data processing but also laid the foundational architecture for the global networks that now support nearly every facet of modern life. In parallel with these developments, the world witnessed a metamorphosis in the ways humans engaged with information. Where ink and paper had once served as the repositories of human thought, a new medium, digital storage, began to emerge. Data, once confined to physical formats that were vulnerable to decay and obsolescence, now flowed as streams of electronic signals across circuits and networks. The marriage of computing and communication birthed the concept of the network, a web of interconnected machines that could share, process, and disseminate information at speeds hitherto unimaginable. Early networks, primitive and sporadic in their reach, gradually coalesced into the Internet, a vast, decentralized infrastructure that defied traditional boundaries. The Internet's genesis was marked by collaborative ventures among academic and government institutions, a spirit of open exchange that sought to leverage computational power for the collective benefit of society. As protocols and standards solidified, the network expanded into an arena where commerce, education, entertainment, and social interaction converged in a dynamic digital ecosystem. This transformation redefined communication, turning static repositories of text into interactive, multimedia experiences, and democratized access to information, empowering individuals with the tools to connect, create, and innovate on a scale never before imagined. The unfolding digital revolution resonated outward from research labs into every corner of human endeavor, compelling profound shifts in work, culture, and personal identity. The personal computer, once a luxury reserved for scientific research or large corporations, became an everyday tool in homes and offices around the world. Software, meticulously coded by teams of dedicated programmers, automated routine tasks, streamlined complex processes, and ultimately reconfigured the way humans interacted with machines. Meanwhile, digital communication platforms revolutionized both face-to-face interactions and mass media production. The shift from analog to digital information fundamentally altered artistic expression as well. Music, film, literature, and visual arts embraced the new medium, blending technology with creativity to yield novel forms of storytelling and self-expression. In this brave new world, human ingenuity and digital innovation intermingled seamlessly, each spurring the other to ever greater heights of complexity and interconnectivity. As the 20th century advanced, the convergence of transportation, communication, computing, and energy production fueled rapid societal changes that redefined what it meant to live in a technological age. The refinement of nuclear technology, born out of a desperate need for efficient energy conversion and charged with the potential for both creation and destruction, underscored the delicate balance between scientific progress and its moral implications. Scientific breakthroughs, such as the decoding of the genetic code and advances in material science, further expanded the horizons of what technology could achieve in medicine, agriculture, and manufacturing. Devices that once required entire rooms to operate were miniaturized to pocket-sized instruments capable of astonishing computational feats, establishing the very foundation for the mobile revolution that would soon sweep across the globe. In every sector, from energy to healthcare, from transportation to entertainment, the interplay between empirical research, engineering prowess, and visionary entrepreneurship catalyzed a steady but inexorable march toward a future laden with promise and peril alike. Throughout these decades of transformation, the human spirit remained both the subject and the engine of technological progress. Pioneers in science and engineering continually pushed the boundaries of possibility, exploring uncharted territories both in the physical world and in the abstract realms of data and logic. Their collective efforts wove a narrative that captured the essence of human aspiration, the ceaseless drive to harness, master, and ultimately transcend the constraints of nature. It was an epoch defined by a dialectic of progress, in which the struggles of an industrial society encountered the ethereal potential of a digital age. Social reforms and political upheavals, often intertwined with scientific progress, reshaped institutions and reoriented values, placing innovation at the heart of societal transformation. The mechanization that had once served as a tool for mass production evolved into a symbol of shared progress, testifying to humanity's capacity to reinvent its world through perseverance, ingenuity, and collective vision. In the grand tapestry of human achievement, this period stands as a testament to the power of accumulated knowledge and the transformative potential of inspired thought. Each invention, from the steady, reliable hum of the steam engine to the pulsating binary rhythms of early computers, was a milestone marking the transition from an agrarian society to an industrial behemoth and eventually to a digital civilization. The technological innovations of this transformative era, with all their complex interdependencies and far-reaching effects, reshaped economic paradigms, redefined interpersonal communication, and redrew the geographic and social contours of modern civilization. Even as the world confronted the challenges wrought by rapid change, environmental concerns, ethical dilemmas, and the tension between tradition and modernity, the inherent dynamism of technological progress remained an inexhaustible catalyst for reinvention and renewal. As nations harnessed these breakthroughs to propel themselves onto the global stage, international collaborations and competitions became intertwined in a complex dance of progress and power. Scientific discoveries were shared across borders, ideas transcended linguistic and cultural divides, and innovations that once emerged in isolated workshops became part of a transnational narrative of advancement. The industrial and digital revolutions, in melding the imperatives of commerce with the aspirations of knowledge, fostered an era in which the tools of progress became shared instruments for human betterment, a collective endeavor to redefine what was achievable. Through these intertwined developments, humanity embarked on a journey of unprecedented scale and depth, one that reshaped not only the landscape of production and communication but also the paradigms by which individuals understood themselves and their place in the cosmos. In this relentless momentum, the interplay between human aspiration and technological innovation forged a future in which barriers, whether geographic, economic, or interpersonal, fell away before the onslaught of progress. Lives were transformed, industries reorganized, and societies reimagined, all under the guiding principle that technology, continuously refined and redefined through rigorous application and creative interference, was the ultimate testament to the human capacity for reinvention. The legacy of this era, captured in the incandescent glow of electric light, the rapid cadence of digital pulses, and the ceaseless hum of automated machinery, not only heralded the dawn of modernity but also charted a course that continues to guide the evolution of civilization. In every breakthrough and every incremental improvement, there was the constant reminder that the journey of progress is one without limits, a journey that sprang from the simple, deliberate acts of our ancestors and now winds its way through the labyrinth of modern innovation. In the decades following the breakthroughs of the industrial and early digital revolutions, a new era emerged in which the integration of advanced electronics, computing power, and global communication redefined the boundaries of human capability. As the mid-20th century yielded to a landscape dominated by silicon-based microprocessors and integrated circuits, research in semiconductor physics accelerated at an unprecedented pace. Laboratories worldwide, fueled by both governmental investments and private enterprise, refined fabrication techniques that drastically miniaturized electronic components. The monumental achievement of fitting millions of transistors on a single chip ushered in an era of exponential growth in computational power, a phenomenon famously encapsulated by Moore's law. What once occupied entire rooms became the beating core of personal computers, devices that gradually transformed from luxuries for specialists into indispensable tools integrated into nearly every facet of daily life. This revolution in computing heralded not only a surge in processing capacity but also laid the groundwork for an interconnected world in which information would flow faster and more freely than ever before. As microprocessors found their way into homes, offices, and eventually pocket-sized devices, a digital culture began to materialize. In the early stages, bulky personal computers, with their basic graphical user interfaces and limited connectivity, served as the canvas upon which programmers and engineers painted the first strokes of a nascent digital era. Over time, networks emerged that connected isolated machines into local clusters, which eventually coalesced into vast global systems. The development of packet switching protocols, originally conceived for military and academic purposes, evolved into the Internet, a decentralized network that defied geographic and political boundaries. In this emerging ecosystem, emails, file transfers, and early web pages provided the first glimpses of a mode of communication that allowed users to share information in real time, collaborate on projects across continents, and establish communities founded on shared interests rather than proximity. The network of networks soon redefined not only commerce and education but also the social fabric of societies that embraced the instantaneous exchange of ideas. During these formative years, the digital revolution catalyzed profound changes in economic and cultural structures. Industries that had long been defined by physical goods and traditional supply chains began to experience a shift toward digitization. New business models, based on the exchange of information and online transactions, emerged and disrupted established marketplaces. E-commerce platforms allowed consumers to purchase goods with a few clicks instead of venturing out to local stores, while digital payment systems laid the foundation for secure and efficient financial transactions across borders. At the same time, media consumption underwent a radical transformation. Printed newspapers and analog broadcasts gave way to online news portals, streaming services, and social media platforms. This metamorphosis not only altered how people received information but also changed the very nature of content creation, as user-generated content and interactive media became central to modern communication. Simultaneously, the rise of personal computing and digital networks fostered an era of intense innovation in software engineering and human-machine interaction. Early graphical interfaces evolved into more intuitive designs that emphasized ease of use and accessibility. Software applications became the lens through which individuals engaged with technology, spanning word processing, data analysis, multimedia creation, and beyond. At the same time, programming languages matured from rudimentary assembly code to high-level languages that abstracted complexity and empowered a broader range of innovators. The democratization of technology led to a surge in creativity. Hobbyists and professionals alike began to experiment with custom code, share their programs online, and collaborate on open-source projects. This culture of collaborative innovation not only accelerated software development but also blurred the lines between creator and consumer, fostering a dynamic ecosystem where every participant had the potential to contribute to the evolution of digital technology. Beyond computing and communication, the modern era witnessed remarkable strides in fields that recombined traditional engineering with breakthrough scientific research. In medicine, for example, the convergence of computer science, genetics, and biomedical engineering spawned the field of bioinformatics, a discipline that enabled the decoding of genetic sequences and laid the groundwork for personalized medicine. Advances in imaging technology, powered by digital sensors and powerful computing algorithms, transformed diagnostic practices by allowing physicians to visualize internal structures with remarkable clarity. Minimally invasive surgical techniques, guided by real-time imaging and robotic assistance, reduced recovery times and revolutionized healthcare practices worldwide. The integration of data analytics with clinical research accelerated the discovery of new drugs and refined treatment protocols, ushering in an age where preventive care and targeted therapies began to replace more generalized medical approaches. Simultaneously, The interplay between digital technology and traditional industries gave rise to a new wave of automation and robotics. Initially confined to repetitive tasks in manufacturing, robotic systems gradually evolved toward greater adaptability and autonomy. Advanced sensors, artificial intelligence, and machine learning algorithms allowed robotic platforms to navigate complex environments, interact safely with humans, and continuously optimize their tasks. In logistics centers, automated sorting systems and self-driving vehicles increased efficiency and reduced human error. In service industries, robots and AI-driven assistants began to assist with everything from customer service to household chores, heralding a future in which human labor would be complemented, and in some cases, replaced, by intelligent machines. Such advances prompted society to confront vital questions regarding the future of work and the ethical considerations of delegating decision-making to automated systems, issues that continue to shape policy debates and research agendas to this day. As digital networks expanded, they spurred unprecedented changes in social interaction and cultural expression. The advent of social media platforms reconfigured how individuals connected by providing virtual spaces where ideas and identities could be shared on a global scale. These platforms not only allowed users to communicate instantly through text, images, and video, but also created digital communities that transcended traditional physical boundaries. In this landscape, information traveled at the speed of light, enabling grassroots movements, international collaborations, and rapid dissemination of creative content. While the benefits of such connectivity were manifold, ranging from enhanced educational opportunities to mobilized humanitarian efforts, they also introduced new challenges. Issues of digital privacy, the spread of misinformation, and the psychological impact of constant connectivity emerged as critical areas of concern, compelling researchers and policymakers to seek balanced solutions that would protect individual rights while fostering innovation. In the realm of science and engineering, interdisciplinary research began to redefine the frontiers of what could be achieved. The synergy between computing, material sciences, and biology drove advances in nanotechnology, a field dedicated to manipulating matter at the scale of atoms and molecules. Nanomaterials, characterized by their unique physical and chemical properties, found applications ranging from energy-efficient coatings to high-performance batteries and medical diagnostics. The miniaturization of electronic devices, which had already revolutionized computing, now intersected with breakthroughs in nanoscience to produce sensors and processors of astonishing efficiency and speed. As research facilities worldwide harnessed the power of nanotechnology, the prospect of developing materials with self-healing properties, adaptive responses, and even quantum-enhanced capabilities transitioned from speculative theory to tangible reality. These innovations promised not only incremental improvements in existing technologies, but also the potential to catalyze entirely new industries that would shape the next generation of human endeavor. In parallel, the burgeoning field of renewable energy emerged as a critical component of modern technology. The global imperative to address climate change and reduce dependence on fossil fuels led to intensive research in solar, wind, and geothermal power, as well as innovations in energy storage systems. Photovoltaic cells, inspired by both natural processes and advanced semiconductor designs, began to generate electricity on a scale that could rival traditional power plants. Wind turbines, evolving from rudimentary designs into efficient, computer-optimized giants, harnessed the kinetic energy of the atmosphere to supply clean power to urban centers. Coupled with breakthroughs in battery technology, where new chemistries and solid-state designs promised longer life and faster charging speeds, renewable energy technologies laid the cornerstone for a more sustainable global economy. These advancements not only transformed the energy sector but also reconfigured industrial processes, urban planning, and even geopolitical relations, as access to clean energy became both an economic asset and a matter of environmental stewardship. Amidst these technical revolutions, the very fabric of society was being rewoven by the forces of globalization and information exchange. Markets, once localized and relatively static, now operated on an instantaneous, worldwide scale. Supply chains became intricate networks that spanned continents and time zones, while real-time data analytics enabled businesses to forecast trends, optimize logistics, and make decisions with unprecedented speed. The digital transformation of commerce not only led to the rise of multinational tech conglomerates, but also empowered small enterprises and individual entrepreneurs through platforms that minimized the barriers to entry into global markets. Consequently, the modern economic landscape emerged as a complex interplay of technology, capital, and human ambition, a dynamic system in which innovation became both the engine of growth and the currency of progress. At the heart of these technological advances lay a continuous drive for knowledge, experimentation, and the reimagining of what was possible. Researchers, engineers, and visionaries collaborated across disciplinary boundaries, exchanging ideas in international conferences, joint ventures, and research consortia that transcended borders. This culture of open innovation, bolstered by digital communication tools and online repositories of scientific literature, accelerated the pace of discovery while democratizing access to cutting-edge research. As academic institutions and industry leaders partnered to tackle challenges ranging from renewable energy scarcity to cybersecurity threats, the collective understanding of our technological ecosystem deepened, and the tools available for its further development multiplied accordingly. With every iteration of hardware, every refinement in software, and every breakthrough in science, humanity inched closer to a future where technology would not only serve as a tool for progress but become an integral and inseparable part of the human condition. In the midst of these broad transformations, the boundaries between physical, digital, and biological realms began to blur. Cyberphysical systems emerged that integrated sensors, actuators, and AI algorithms into everyday objects, creating smart environments that could adapt to human needs in real time. Homes, offices, and entire cities were reimagined as networks of interconnected devices that communicated seamlessly, optimizing energy usage, enhancing security, and even tailoring ambient conditions to mood and health requirements. Wearable technology and implantable devices further merged the realms of biology and information, providing individuals with tools to monitor their health, access information, and interact with digital systems through natural gestures and voice commands. This convergence of disciplines signified a new epoch in which technology grew increasingly personalized, adaptive, and intimately woven into the tapestry of daily experience. As the modern era unfolds, the technological landscape promises to accelerate further, guided by trends in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, and beyond. Researchers are now exploring methods to harness the strange properties of quantum states for unprecedented computational power, while breakthroughs in machine learning continue to enhance decision-making processes across industries. Simultaneously, the integration of robotic systems into everyday tasks is poised to redefine the very nature of labor, as machines learn to perform tasks with agility, precision, and even creativity. These innovations, positioned at the cutting edge of science and engineering, carry with them the promise of solving some of humanity's most vexing challenges, from climate change and resource scarcity to disease and societal dislocation. Throughout this era of transformative change, the narrative of technology remains a story of human ingenuity sustained by a relentless quest for improvement. Every circuit etched onto a microchip, every byte of data exchanged across the globe, and every life-saving medical procedure made possible by digital precision stands as evidence of the cumulative impact of centuries of innovation. The journey from the earliest stone tools and controlled flames to the intricate digital ecosystems and bio-integrative devices of today embodies an unbroken chain of exploration, discovery, and reinvention. In every incremental breakthrough and every paradigm-shifting leap forward, the spirit of innovation endures, a testament to the belief that through persistent inquiry and creative adaptation, humanity can continue to redefine the limits of possibility. In the final phase of this long journey, humanity reaches a point where technology is no longer merely a collection of discrete tools or isolated inventions, but a seamless, ubiquitous network interwoven with every aspect of life. The digital revolution, which had its origins in the transformation of bulky computation and rudimentary communication networks, now manifests in every facet of modern existence. As microprocessors shrank and computing power soared, devices became ever more personal and agile, a transition that turned once static machines into dynamic partners in everyday life. These innovations have produced not only a revolution in work and entertainment, but a fundamental shift in human identity. In homes, offices, and entire cities, digital systems now monitor, predict, and even react to human behavior in ways that blend the physical and the virtual, creating environments that are responsive, adaptive, and intelligent. The deep integration of these electronic systems with traditional infrastructures has given rise to smart ecosystems, where energy grids, transportation networks, and public services are continuously optimized through real-time data analytics and automated decision-making processes. Every element of these systems, from the algorithmically managed traffic signals to sensor-embedded buildings that adjust ambient conditions automatically, attests to the profound transformation wrought by decades of relentless innovation. This convergence of digital technologies and everyday life has also reconfigured global communication in ways that defy the earlier constraints of geography and time. The Internet, once a laboratory experiment limited by bandwidth and technical challenges, now spans the globe in a vast, decentralized network that unites billions of individuals. In this networked world, communication channels have evolved from static, unidirectional streams to interactive, multimedia experiences that foster a culture of immediacy and connectivity. Social media platforms, online forums, and real-time video conferencing have upended traditional hierarchies of information flow. News, entertainment, and education are no longer confined to singular media formats but are distributed across a constantly evolving ecosystem of platforms that empower users to become both consumers and creators of content. This democratization of communication has transformed the very fabric of society, enabling grassroots movements to mobilize across borders, creating communities defined not by proximity but by shared interests, values, and aspirations. The once familiar boundaries between private and public life have blurred, fostering an environment where digital interactions supplement, and sometimes substitute for, physical encounters, while simultaneously presenting new challenges in governance, privacy, and the ethics of information sharing. Parallel to these wide-reaching transformations in communication and infrastructure, advances in science and engineering have ushered in a new era of interdisciplinary breakthroughs that continue to push the limits of what is achievable. In medicine, for example, the fusion of digital computing with advanced imaging and genetic analysis has given rise to personalized healthcare paradigms. Physicians can now integrate data from genomic sequencing, wearable health monitors, and complex imaging systems to develop treatment plans tailored to the unique biology of each patient. These innovations have accelerated the pace of drug discovery, enabled early detection of diseases, and fostered a shift from reactive to preventive medicine. The integration of real-time data with advanced analytics has also transformed surgical practices. Robotics, guided by high-precision imaging and sensor-driven feedback loops, allow surgeons to operate with unmatched accuracy, reducing recovery times and expanding the possibilities for minimally invasive procedures. In such applications, technology acts not as a separate entity but as an extension of human skill, amplifying the innate capabilities of our bodies and minds. This synthesis of artificial intelligence, robotics, and biomedicine signals a future in which the boundaries between human and machine blur further, opening new frontiers in both physical and cognitive enhancement. At the same time, the energy sector has experienced perhaps one of the most significant revolutions in modern history. Faced with the dual imperatives of resource scarcity and environmental sustainability, societies around the world have turned to renewable energy sources with renewed vigor. Breakthroughs in photovoltaic technologies, wind turbine design, and energy storage have not only reduced the reliance on fossil fuels but have also laid the technical and economic foundations for a cleaner, more resilient energy future. The integration of smart grids and the Internet of Things has enabled energy consumption to be managed at a granular level, ensuring that energy is distributed efficiently across communities and industries alike. Such systems do more than simply monitor demand and supply. They predict usage patterns, adjust output accordingly, and even interface with individual devices to optimize performance. This holistic approach has transformed energy from a static, centralized commodity into a dynamic, decentralized resource that is as adaptive as it is sustainable. The implications are profound. As economies shift toward renewable sources, the global balance of power may be redefined, with nations rich in natural renewable resources emerging as key players in the new energy order. At the same time, environmental stewardship becomes intrinsically linked with technological innovation, reinforcing the notion that progress must be measured not only in terms of productivity but also in terms of planetary health. Simultaneously, the relentless quest for knowledge continues to drive exploration far beyond our terrestrial bounds. Space, once the exclusive domain of government agencies and expensive missions, has become an arena of both public fascination and private enterprise. Advances in propulsion technology, miniaturization of spacecraft, and the development of autonomous, AI-powered systems have dramatically lowered the barriers to exploring our cosmic neighborhood. Missions that once took decades to plan and execute are now routine, and what was once considered science fiction, such as the prospect of human settlements on other planets, has edged closer to practical reality. This new space age is characterized by a spirit of collaboration and competition alike. Nations and corporations invest in cutting-edge research to unlock the mysteries of distant worlds, seeking not only to understand the universe but also to harness its resources. As telescopic observations become more advanced and interplanetary travel more feasible, space exploration promises to yield technologies that reverberate back on Earth, akin to the innovations of the digital revolution. Here, the iterative cycle of discovery and application takes on a galactic scale, with insights gleaned from studying the cosmos feeding back into the development of new materials, communication methods, and energy systems that could transform life once more. Throughout these profound transitions, the ethical, social, and philosophical implications of rapid technological change have come into sharp focus. The very tools that have empowered unprecedented connectivity and efficiency have also precipitated debates regarding digital privacy, intellectual property, and the equitable distribution of technological benefits. In a world where data frequently serves as the fundamental currency, the need for frameworks that balance innovation with individual rights has never been more acute. As artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms begin to influence decision-making in critical sectors, from finance to criminal justice, society is compelled to confront questions that were once firmly in the realm of science fiction. The challenge lies not in halting progress, but in steering that progress toward outcomes that are just, equitable, and respectful of human dignity. In this context, ethical considerations become as integral to technological development as engineering prowess or scientific insight. The future of technology, therefore, is not solely a function of its technical efficiency or capacity for economic growth, but is also measured by its ability to enhance human well-being, empower disenfranchised communities, and contribute to a sustainable, harmonious social order. As convergence deepens across fields that were once considered distinct, such as computing, biology, nanoscience, and renewable energy, a new paradigm emerges in which interdisciplinary research becomes the norm rather than the exception. Researchers now routinely cross traditional disciplinary boundaries, pooling collective expertise to tackle challenges that span the physical, digital, and biological realms. This synthesis is exemplified by projects that leverage quantum computing to solve complex biological problems or that employ AI-driven models to predict the environmental impact of industrial processes. In effect, the future of technology is unfolding as a continuum, a seamless evolution wherein each new discovery builds upon an ever-expanding foundation of shared knowledge and collaborative effort. It is an era in which innovation is not constrained by silos but is characterized by fluid interactions among diverse fields, each enriched by insights from adjacent domains. The resulting dynamic landscape is one of rapid transformation, where yesterday's breakthroughs quickly become the platforms of tomorrow's revolutions. In reflecting on these converging streams of progress, it becomes clear that the evolution of technology from humanity's earliest toolmaking to the present digital age is not a static record of isolated inventions but a vibrant tapestry woven from countless threads of curiosity, collaboration, and perseverance. With every incremental advance, from the shaping of a sharpened stone in the dawn of human existence to the intricate algorithms that power our most advanced AI systems, the narrative of technology has been written in a language of progress and possibility. This continuum demonstrates that the human spirit, undaunted by challenges, ever curious, and unfailingly innovative, has always found a way to imagine, construct, and refine the tools necessary to overcome the limitations imposed by nature. Even as we stand on the threshold of an uncertain future, with challenges that span climate change, global inequity, and the ethical dilemmas posed by automation and artificial intelligence, the same forces that propelled us from primitive survival to global connectivity continue to inspire and mobilize. Now, as humanity embarks on yet another chapter in its long technological odyssey, the promise of future breakthroughs glows with the same intensity as the first frantic spark of fire harnessed by our distant ancestors. The integration of advanced computing, global communication, sustainable energy, and biotechnology continues to accelerate, driven by the collective imperative to overcome current limitations and unlock new realms of possibility. Whether through the promise of quantum technologies that may fundamentally redefine our approach to computation, the potential of AI systems to augment human creativity and cognition, or the ingenuity of renewable energy systems that may finally harmonize human progress with ecological stewardship, the path forward is illuminated by a shared vision of progress that transcends borders, disciplines, and eras. In this era of holistic integration, technology is increasingly viewed as both the architect and the mirror of human civilization, a dynamic system that reflects our aspirations, challenges, and collective ingenuity even as it shapes the trajectory of our future. Every digital interface, every medical breakthrough, every renewable energy installation, and every step taken toward the exploration of distant worlds bears the imprint of a common human desire to understand, control, and ultimately coexist with the forces that govern our universe. This symbiotic relationship between humanity and technology, forged over countless millennia and refined with each successive innovation, stands as the crowning achievement of our evolutionary journey, a journey that continues unabated into the ever-expanding frontier of the unknown. Thus, as we conclude this comprehensive narrative tracing the evolution of technology from humanity's first steps to the present day, we find that the story is far from finished. It is an ongoing saga, propelled by a ceaseless cycle of discovery, invention, and reimagination. The lessons of the past, etched into the relics of ancient tools, inscribed on clay tablets, manifested in the monumental architecture of early civilizations, and now encoded in digital signals, serve as a constant reminder that progress is cumulative and that each generation builds upon the knowledge and dreams of those who came before. Looking forward, the challenges may be daunting, and the ethical, social, and environmental questions complex, yet the spirit of innovation that has guided humanity thus far remains undiminished. With every new breakthrough, we gain not only technical prowess but also a deeper understanding of our place in a vast, interconnected cosmos. In this light, the future emerges not as a distant, abstract possibility but as the natural outcome of a process that began with a simple act of human curiosity. The evolution of technology, in all its multifaceted glory, encapsulates the essence of human progress, a relentless quest to adapt, overcome, and transcend the limitations of each moment in order to create a better tomorrow. As the boundaries between the physical, digital, and biological realms continue to dissolve, and as interdisciplinary innovation accelerates at an exponential pace, the narrative of technology is destined to grow ever more intricate, dynamic, and transformative.